Okay, this is just a quick video to show you how to set up a Linode VPS. For starters, go to linode.com. Go ahead and create an account. If you already have one, you can just go ahead and hit log in. And you're brought up to your screen that shows all your Linodes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add one. If this is your first time, I'm assuming you won't have any of these in there, but you can see that, it's pretty easy to manage. Here we have one with 8 gig of RAM in it, and it's in Atlanta. Then we got 2 nanodes, which are just 1 gig, and one of those in Dallas and one in Atlanta. So let's go ahead and set one of these up really quick. So you just click the Linode button right over here, and it's going to basically present you with a lot of options here. Obviously the nanode is the smallest one and very sufficient for just putting a box out on the internet where you can perform some non-attributable research from, and that's what we're going to be doing today. But you can see down here they have just a ton of different options for you depending on what size you need. So we're going to go ahead and select nanode, and then we'll scroll down to the bottom, and it's going to ask us where we want to pull it from. So with this, let's go ahead and let's deploy this one just to be different. We'll deploy it in London, and then we'll hit add this Linode. So now we have it. It's added to our manager here. It says the status is being created, and we'll give it a few minutes here, and then we'll go in and actually pick the operating system and get it started. Now to get into it, if you click right here, it'll bring you over here, and you can see that it's still not done yet, so we're going to have to wait just a moment. Okay, so now that it says brand new, let's go ahead and go into it and see if we can set it up. So we'll need to deploy an image to it. So if we click deploy an image, it's going to give us some options here. We can set up the image type, and I will probably be using CentOS 7 for this one. I tend to just stick with the Red Hat flavors just because that's what I'm used to. The disk size, that's how much space they've given us. We'll leave that as a default. Set the swap disk to 256 megabyte. That's perfectly fine. And then we'll create a root password. And then we'll hit deploy. And down here you'll see it performing some of the processes that are required to deploy this disk. So it's already done the initial configuration. Now it's creating a disk from the CentOS distribution. When that's done, it'll set up the swap file. Okay, so now the image is pretty much configured. We just need to boot it. You can see here it shows the disk, 256 megabyte of swap space on its own partition, and then we have the CentOS disk on its own partition. So let's go ahead and boot it up. And it asks you if you want to boot it. Same thing if you want to shut it down, it'll ask before it just does it. So we'll go ahead and click yes. And then down here you'll get a status. Alright, so it says that it's running right here. You can see in this top right hand corner you have a status box and it says running. Alright, so there's a couple of ways we can get into this. We'll start by clicking remote access over here. And as you can see, it gives us, our how to get into it with SSH. We have our IP address. It's given us DNS resolver, so we have a lot of information here. Now we can just take this and use it to SSH in with PuTTY, but let's say you're locked out for some reason. you can come down here and you can do lish, and it's basically a small shell that you can open in a browser here. Alright, so we're going to log in as root and the password we put in, and we are now in. And you can see here's our IP address right there. So we're logged in, and we can check our disk space. We have 22 gigs available. We've used 1.3, so this thing has a fair amount of space on it for, you know, a $5 a month Nanode. So if we want to get in this with PuTTY, we can do that as well. We just have to add the IP address, and we'll copy that from right here. It would ask us if we want to put in or want to accept this host key. We're going to say yes. And then it will just log in as we did a while ago. Alright, so now we are logged in with the Lish terminal and an SSH session. So let me grab the other. So you can see right here, both are logged in. We can do a who and it should show us. And we have one logged in on a TTY and one logged in on a PTS. So there you have it, nice and easy. Now as you're running this, if you come back over here, you'll get some stats if you go back to this particular Linode. And there's none available right now, so let me jump into another one just to show you what they look like. So we'll jump into one of the other Nanodes, and you can see down here you're going to get stats down here of jobs that have been run, and you're going to get some basic MRTG style graphs down here for everything from CPU to memory to disk utilization to bandwidth. So it gives you a lot of information. It's very easy to use. You can bring these things up and take them down at will. I think Linode is one of the best values out there right now for VPSs. Okay, now that we've seen how to set up a Linode from start, let me show you how easy it is to just go through and tear it down and start over. So while we're in here, you know, here's our Linode that we're wanting to mess with. So let's just rebuild it. Let's say this time we want Fedora 28. And we'll give it a different password just to make sure. All right. So now it's going to run through and rebuild that, redeploy an image. And you can see right here it's telling you that the other partitions are being deleted. And it'll probably take it a few moments to delete it, then rebuild it. Okay, it looks like it's already done. We've already got the swap image and the disk image. So let's go ahead and boot it. So there you have it. In literally about 1 minute, we were able to tear down one image and rebuild it in another operating system. So it's pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and log in just to make sure that it is Fedora and not CentOS. And again, we'll just use list real quick. Okay, and we should have the same IP, which we do, and of course everything is the same. It's just the host name is the same, the IP is the same, it's still in London. The only thing that's changed is the operating system, and of course anything that you installed is now gone, so you get to start over. So don't forget to make backups. And you can see this is Fedora Core 28, 64-bit. Alrighty. Okay, if you have any questions, ask them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please take a moment and give it a like. Also consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I enjoy doing these tutorials and how-tos on cybersecurity topics, and as long as they are popular, I'll keep doing them. See ya.